Afternoon all. More than 20 years after the Larry Evans game we've just seen on this channel, Robert Byrne was still going strong in the USA Championship of 1984, playing white against Joel Benjamin, who was to become a 3-times US champion. He kicked off with e4. Joel Benjamin plays very sharp Sicilian defence, and we get knight f3, d6, open Sicilian, knight f6, knight c3, knight c6, classical system. Black's not committing to a6 or e6 just yet, or g6, just developing the knights classically. Bishop g5, and it looks as though this is a kind of poison pawn type method that Black is adopting, hitting b2 here quite quickly. White just retreats the knight in this position, e6. And then we see White sensibly deploying with bishop d3. Black plays bishop e7. White castles. Now a6. A slight concern for Black is it's going to take more time to play for b5 here if he wanted to play for b5 to liberate this bishop. King h1, the queen drops back. f4, and actually instead of playing for b5, Black adopts now bishop d7, and White sensibly plays queen e2, as though there's going to be a build-up for potentially playing e5 here, which could be simple and strong. Joel Benjamin plays now h6, and he has a very dynamic idea in mind after bishop h4. Instead of routinely castling and just waiting for White to say build up with e5, this is problematic for Black's king safety. You can imagine simple attacking moves after that. Black plays very aggressively with g5, and there are some downsides of g5 to note structurally. That g pawn won't be able to defend f6. The f file generally could be a source of weakness. h6 is slightly weakened as well. So bear these points in mind. White sidesteps winning a pawn. The usual idea is for Black to get a grip on the e5 square, a very strong grip, and maybe get rid of White's dark square bishop as well. But White retains the dark square bishop with bishop g3, not trying to be materialistic, but trying to keep control of the position. We see g takes, and now rook takes f4. And immediately, of course, doubling does put pressure on f6. For the moment, Black doesn't mind White doubling. He plays knight e5, establishing a seemingly really strong knight with good attacking prospects. You know, bishop c6, rook g8. On the surface, this could look like a good counter-attacking strategy, spearheaded by this very strong central knight on e5. White simply plays, though, rook a f1, and the knight retreats, and now we get a staggeringly quiet but simple and effective move. It's not a smashing move, a crushing move. It's a quiet move. I wonder if you can guess it and its actual intention if I give you 10 seconds starting from now. Okay? Targeted at the very prime feature of Black's position, the move rook 4 to f2 simply carries a dangerous idea of taking, and then queen g4, and then queen g7, just to attack this rook and win material generally on the f file. So Black cannot play a very routine move like castling now queenside is very dangerous as well. White could just snap off the knight and take on f7, for example. Castling queenside, White can take, rook takes f7, and this isn't the end of Black's problems. Say h5, queen e3, castling queenside has its own dangers on the dark squares here. Say king b8, and White can even think about doubling on the 7th rank here. So this is quite a powerful retreat, surprisingly so. And it starts to cast doubt on g5 as an idea. Black plays a very desperate looking move now, f6. Still with the idea of trying to play on this diagonal and maybe get the rook in on the g file somehow to coordinate against g2. It's a very optimistic strategy though. We see check, which has the point of stopping Black castling now. Knight e5 might be adequately answered by a blasting move like e5 and bishop g6. Doesn't bear thinking about. So we see king f8. A new target is found in black's position, an exploitable weakness, you might call it. Even though the f file looks as though white's pieces on the f file, you might think f6 is the obvious one, but actually it's the e6 pawn which is of great interest here to white, revealed by this next move, knight e2, because knight f4 followed by knight d4 is a very embarrassing forking opportunity in the current black configuration of queen and king here. We see black playing now rook h7, trying to get some sort of counterplay on the g file potentially. Knight f4, rook g7, and the other knight joins in for that poor e6 pawn. At the moment now, black seemingly defends adequately with queen c8. And of course now, queen h3 doesn't actually join the party that quickly on e6, because black could play knight g4. So there's another brilliant, powerful, quiet move, simple, effective and strong here, to reinforce the pressure, to increase the pressure on the e6 pawn. I wonder if you can guess it if I give you 10 seconds starting from now. Clue, it's not a smash type move, a bang type move. It's a quiet move. Okay. White simply plays bishop e2, simply threatening queen h3 without any knight g4 to interfere. The knight on e5 looks good, but functionally that particular function of safeguarding e6 is not on the cards here. Black plays now bishop d8, trying to redeploy the bishop on this diagonal. Seems like a good idea in the circumstance, perhaps, but it also means that the king can stand guard for the e6 pawn, and we see that queen h3, the king comes in to e7. The king is a little bit vulnerable there though, and now bishop h4 has an immediate threat actually. A number of threats are introduced. Knight h5, even bishop takes f6 is a dangerous forcing move threat in this position. It's actually very, very difficult for black to do anything here. I think black is actually helpless. He's got this queenside congestion, king stuck in the centre. White's very well coordinated pieces, very well on both e6 and f6. If you look at all of white's pieces, they're either attacking f6 indirectly. It's only the bishop on e2 watching on both sides of the board, but even that can threaten bishop h5. So here black plays bishop b6, and there's a very powerful forcing move now. Can you find it if I give you 10 seconds starting from now? Clue, weakness of the last move actually. This last move carries a slight weakness. Okay, knight f5 check. This knight's also ready to go to d5, and that happens now. Otherwise black's just losing the exchange, losing material. Black takes, knight d5 check. And now knight takes b6, full king, queen and rook. It's a total disaster. Black tries f4, counter-attacking the white queen. The white queen can go anywhere sensibly, like queen a3 would be very good, but he chooses queen b3 just as good really, keeping an eye on this knight, stopping the rook from doing too much, keeping this fork, white's winning material. Black's also faced with rook takes f4. It's totally hopeless. Black actually resigned here. An amazingly simple but effective game by white. Black tried to be creative with g5, but was severely punished by simple maneuvers creating quiet threats. Comments or questions on YouTube? Thanks very much.